Here's a big question on everybody's lips is my dog fussy, or is it, in fact, addicted to junk food?
The Pet Health and Happiness podcast from Bella+Duke, keeping you at the cutting edge of pet nutrition, behavior, and health with expert interviews, mythbusters, and more to ensure your pet lives a long, happy, healthy life.
Now, this is particularly relevant for those of you who have either dogs or cats who have been previously fed processed food and have had some problems transitioning onto raw. Dr. Brendan, what a Pandora's box this is.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So many things that we could dip into here. I'm going to try and keep it light and not too in depth. Otherwise, we could just get lost down so many rabbit holes.
Oh, there's another pet we hadn't thought about. So, if any of you have had any issues transitioning your dog or cat or rabbit onto raw, don't do that with rabbits, please. The herbivores. Our amazing natural behaviorist, Caroline Spencer, has a host of very simple tricks, techniques, methods, the natural feeding method to help get particularly your dog across onto raw food. Now, most people will just actually switch easily one step. However, sometimes people find it a little more complicated, and they often assume that their cat or dog is fussy, when in fact, we have a different theory, don't we, Brendan?
Oh, look, there are so many other pathways to why your cat or dog may not want to eat a healthy food. And I liken this to trying to walk your child, your 4-year-old child, and Rowan, soon you'll experience this, down the high street.
I hope she's not going to be born 4. That's going to be quite... It's going to be quite scary. Full head of hair and speaking.
There you go. But it's trying to walk your child down the street, past the sweet shop on the way to collecting the meat and 2 veg for your dinner, and expecting your child to totally just think, no, I'm not going anywhere near that sweet shop. You know, it is the addictive nature of the way we've been feeding our pets, but also our children for years. And there's now mainstream information about this. There is documentaries just a few weeks back on this. And it is just so interesting how the food industry has effectively evolved to manipulate us to need to go back to eat their food.
Okay. Well, before we go into that dark tunnel, here's a couple of things. People like to make a great deal, and I love it. It's an awesome theory about how cats or dogs know inherently what's good for them, and they can self-medicate. We talk about things like zoopharmacognosy. I really wholly endorse all of that. However, let's not lose sight of the fact that particularly if you've got a Labrador, it's probably eating a Wellington boot. I live next door to a goat farm, and they will eat literally the paint off the shed. Kismet has been known to rummage through a bin, even though she's always been raw fed. So there's a reason that you're a guardian, and that is animals don't always know best and they need your guidance. That's point 1. Point 2 is some of the foods are deliberately processed foods, deliberately engineered, and we understand why, to actually pass something that's called a first taste palatability test. Now, this is designed to blow your pet's mind and be ultra satisfying. If you remember the last time we were allowed to go out to a nice restaurant and you taste something and you have this umami sensation, literally you go, oh, wow, and you want to eat more of it. That is what processed pet food is designed to do. Is it not, Brendan?
Yeah, I mean, look, if you just left a processed food in its raw state, let's pardon the mixed metaphors and everything else going on there, you would be left with a grey, tasteless, cardboard-like material that would be pretty off-putting to most individuals and probably just left alone by most animals. So,
Yes.
of course, what they've done is they've taken, all sorts of digests, and I'm not really going to go into the depths of that as to what that means, but they're going to coat the biscuits with digests and oils and fats to try and enhance the flavors, with a few other salts and amino acids, just to really sort of like mix that up. And that, number one, becomes the thing that they taste for. And that's the sort of fizzy sweet sensation, if you like, that kids would go for and be addicted going back for more.
You're making me salivate.
You like the odd sour. So that's really that's the number one thing that you were talking about, that the taste test passing, is that they have to put on this flavoring to make it so that the animals will actually pay interest in it. Number two is then the result of what's within that food and how that interacts with the body. And we can start to go into what hormones that causes to be released, how that then generates almost an endorphin release in its own right from animals, which then you get to a point where, as they come off that, they get the same endorphin withdrawal that they need to repeat by going back to the dish.
Now, that's really interesting, because I'd love to get your vet perspective on this. I know that in humans, for instance, cheese on toast, designed to be comfort food, you get a very sedatory endorphin release, and it's a gluteomorphin and a caseomorphin effect, where it sits on those opiate receptors in the brain and basically sedates you. Now, that's why people look at it as warming comfort winter food. It's like putting on a blanket. Do dogs and cats have opiate receptors?
Yeah, absolutely. They're still mammals, still have those same receptors, still respond to the same drugs. We still see the same responses through the various hormones that we would associate with human behavior. And so absolutely, we believe that is the same sort of pathways will happen for your pets. So
I think, Dr. Brendan, are there any other points we need to cover on this?
I think, if you are having that experience of a fussy pet, do think there are a number of conditions that may be causing that. Okay. Ensure that your vet has just checked out that there's no other issues going on, no dental problems, no issues from organ function or anything like that. So please get that double checked. And then almost consider how you need to wean your pet across. If they are truly addicted, and let's use that very strong emotive word, if they truly are addictive, you may need a whole weaning process rather than just being able to say, functionally, you can change from this to that. And that needs some care and attention. So be patient with them. Consider some of our other videos that we've done about how to wean across, how to move to new foods, and look at that process in light of, your pet maybe suffering a little bit of a dip in their endorphin levels.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you who've had dogs which have been fussy, or you perceive to be fussy, I would urge you to pick up the easy big marks, which are, first of all, try to attend one of Caroline's webinars. And we'll put a link to Caroline's blog there on transitioning your dog and a natural feeding method, which works in about, I think, something like 92 or 95% of cases. If you're unlucky enough to have a doggo which is in that small percent, first of all, fear not, help is at hand. They're probably just addicted to junk food. And there are ways and methodologies. We're going to put some resources below. If you have a cat, which is generally a little bit more tricky to transition, aren't they, Brendan? Those cats, little rascals. Then we do have an episode where Dr. Brendan very easily and clearly walks you through transitioning your cat onto raw. The point being, just remember you're making the best decision for your pet's health. And sometimes it's worth sticking at because of these addiction problems, which can get in the way. The alternative is just continuing to feed the addiction and the inevitable, in my opinion, ill health, which would be in the post.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you've got to think, yes, you may be giving short-term, benefit for your animal because they're feeding that addiction, but the long-term health implications going down that pathway. And this happens for humans too. I'm sure you'll agree, Rowan.
100%.
Absolutely, you need to be thinking, well, what actually are the greater gains? And actually, once you get beyond that weaning off process, you will see your pet flourish.
100%. 100%. And normally you see behavioral changes. Your pet's more attentive. They have more consistent energy. There's less energy dips. They're less cranky, which is, very similar to humans.
Right.
On that note, please don't forget to recommend us, like us, come and join the Facebook group, the friendliest raw feeding Facebook out there. There's no despotism. There's just help. Okay. Thanks once again for listening, and don't forget to share.
Bye.
Goodbye.